That's strange. All right, I just gotta wait for it. And away we go. Welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I'm your guide and host through the show. And today is our regular monthly series called, I was going to call it the old name. It used to be called Closing Time. Now it is called Unpopular Real Estate Opinions with Chris Linsell. And it's a better name. Unpopular real estate opinions. So let me tell you about Chris and why he has unpopular real estate opinions. Chris Linsell is a real estate technologist, a sought-after real estate coach, and hands-on real estate professional with more than 13 years of experience. Chris currently serves as the director of content for Luxury Presence, great company, where he leads a team of content professionals who are telling the story of this innovative company's products, services, and people. Chris resides in Michigan. He is often sought after to speak at not only local conferences, but national conferences. He's spoken at the National Association of Realtors conference many, many times. He is he is a lot of times where experts will go to find an expert in the real estate space. He knows what's going on and he has opinions about it. Chris, welcome once again to the show. Oh, by the way, everyone should check out chrislinsell.com. You can find his social media links, hit him up on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, and we'll have a link to that in the notes. Chris, welcome.
TJ, good to see you. A lot happening in real estate right now. A lot to talk about. Glad to be here.
Yes, we all got an email from Kevin Sears, the current president of National Association of Realtors, and I didn't totally understand it. My brain is maybe not as large as yours, and so I want to understand so we've been hearing about clear cooperation policy for quite a while, and there's been a recent update to it, and I want to talk about what's going on, why, and who does it benefit? Who does it hurt? What's your take on it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's all get in the same room on this first. Clear cooperation, or the Clear Cooperation Policy, you'll hear it referred to as CCP pretty regularly because it's a mouthful, was and still is a policy the National Association of Realtors implemented. I don't even know how many years ago now, a while ago. I mean, not super long ago, like maybe, I can't remember exactly how long ago. Definitely within my time as an agent. That basically said, if you are going to take a listing and you're going to market this listing publicly, meaning it is you are spreading the word about your listing more than just in single conversations with individual people, that you have to list it on the MLS. It has to be listed within 1 business day of publicly marketing this property. And this policy was put in place with the idea that it was going to create and maintain transparency in the real estate space, particularly for consumers, as the National Association of Realtors is fond of emphasizing. Essentially saying, this is a policy here to make sure that everybody has access to everything at all times. And there are some elements of this policy that have certainly done that. But there's also some unintended side effects and certainly some detractors of this policy. Primarily, it makes it so real estate professionals who are representing sellers really have limited options in how they want to market a property for sale, meaning it's either on the market or it is not available. There are a lot of people who think, there should be some middle ground here. There should be some in-betweens between being, either up on a billboard in Times Square or squirreled away where nobody can ever find it. And this is why practices like pocket listings and off-market private listings um, started to become prevalent and started to be part of conversation, especially in the last 12 months. In the last 12 months, we've kicked up the heat on this conversation quite a bit. It's been fueled by a number of the lawsuits that the National Association of Realtors has faced around other practices of theirs. And that's where we come to today. As of March 25th, the National Association of Realtors released a statement saying that they were amending the clear cooperation policy now to include a category called delayed marketing exempt listings. So they essentially what they want to do or what they are doing. They don't want to. Maybe they want to. I can't say what they want or don't want, but what they are doing is they're this um, creating this category of listings such that you put the listing information on the MLS and it is active on the MLS, but the marketing of it via IDX, meaning when your listing gets pumped out across all of the different online portals, we're talking Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com and the literally thousands of other places that have IDX agreements. That stuff doesn't happen. So the listings information goes onto the MLS and is available to agents who subscribe to that MLS and to consumers who access that MLS. Remember, most MLSs have prioritized consumer access, and all of them have some form of consumer access. So the property's information is still available, but whether or not it gets blasted out via IDX is what the NAR is looking to change via this adjustment to the clear cooperation policy. But it's important to note this isn't a blanket universal decision. These that period delayed marketing exempt listing, that category, that time period is determinable based on associations preferences and their interpretation of the needs of their markets. So it's not like my MLS and DJ's MLS and an MLS in California will necessarily align. In fact, they most likely will not align many times. Um, and so that's where we find ourselves is this idea, the fire that was lit calling for the end of CCP because it effectively removed the choice of sellers for how they wanted to market their properties, especially sellers who wanted to market their listings privately. They wanted CCP to go away because they didn't have that option. Defenders of CCP said, if we have a marketplace that does not require every listing to be in a centralized database like an MLS, then we will
Bedlam.
begin to miss an opportunity for consumers to get access to all of the content and all of the listings available. And that's the loggerheads. That's the fight that engaged. And this is the NAR's attempt to solve that problem. But spoiler alert, I don't think it did. I don't think that the solution is going to be an answer to that question.
So let me see if I've got a handle on kind of
Yeah.
what happened. Long time ago, NAR said we need a centralized repository of all listings so that agents can all participate in this container of listings. We're going to make a rule that if you're a member of the National Association of Realtors and you're listing a property, you are going to list that property in this container so all other agents can participate. This benefits the consumer because now there's competition. It benefits, really the home seller for sure, and arguably the buyer as well, because now they have access to more properties, but also more competition.
That's right. Yeah. And important to know, this isn't just a digital age thing. The MLS used to be like literally like a 3-ring binder or a phone book style publication that was updated weekly. It was a print publication before real estate was digital that was dropped off at offices every single week. And if you wanted access to the MLS, now we just pull up our or until a week ago, we just pulled up our phones. We could go to Zillow and we could see everything that was listed with our phones. But 25 years ago, that was not the reality. If you wanted to see what was for sale, you had to make an appointment to go into your realtor's office and flip through the book together. It's important to remember that's the history of this. Like, that's where it used to be. That was the MLS 1.0.
Right. And then the internet comes along and people start realizing, we could ask for access to this information, third parties, realtors themselves, other companies, websites start popping up with feeds that from the MLS with data that you still have as a realtor, you still have discretion on where it goes and how it's distributed. But essentially, most people are just going to pass that through. So now you have the MLS is now being projected out to hundreds and thousands of websites from the big brokerage firms all the way down to the agents to tech companies are now getting access to the same data, or at least part of the data, some of the
Yeah,
data.
that's
And
partially true. One thing I want to correct you on is agents. If you put a listing on the MLS, you actually have very limited under the old policy, I should say, before March 25th, 2025, you had very little control over where that
right,
went. Once you have that live on the MLS gets to decide where
where it
it
goes.
ends up
Yeah.
via its connection with these third-party platforms, which is called IDX,
Yep.
which is an important title for us to remember through this conversation. So yes, you put the listing on the MLS, but then you don't get a checkbox to say, like, yes, I
Right.
want it on Zillow. No, I don't want it on Coldwell Banker's corporate site. It goes on, and it goes anywhere the MLS has an IDX agreement.
Correct. And yeah, so thank you for that correction. And now you have a situation where there's people wanting to create their own outside of the container, their own sort of container of properties, or we want to not show uh, a property within that initial container right away. We
Yep.
call it delay. So let's talk about why does this exist?
Yeah.
Who is it for?
Well, so why does this exist is an extent. It's a bit of an existential question, but
Yeah,
let me try to answer that briefly. Why this exists, why this change is in place, is an attempt to answer the following question. The question is, why can't I decide how to market my property? Why can't I, as a home seller, be in charge of who sees my listings details? And much of the argument that gets made here is that sellers deserve the right to create exclusivity around who they share the details of their property with
sure.
for a number of reasons. But really, whatever the reason is actually irrelevant. The argument is that this property belongs to me. I get to decide how it's marketed. What are some of the reasons that often get mentioned? One of them is privacy. Let's say
Sure.
you're a celebrity, you're selling your $20 million Chicago penthouse, and you don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry knowing every detail about your property because that's not good for you or your career. Maybe one of them maybe another reason that gets trumpeted is um, sellers who are interested in selling but really have a unique property that might not meet this traditional criteria for a market CMA, for a comparative market analysis. So pricing that property would be difficult. We
Right.
all know as real estate professionals what happens to properties that go on the MLS that are priced ineffectively, and they sit there for 90, 120, 150 days. That property gets essentially, it has been confirmed as poisonous by a lot of realtors. They're like, something is wrong with this property if it's been on here for this long.
Right.
Or we've seen 10 price reductions. Well, the reality is some properties are difficult to price because you might not have the comparables necessary to do it accurately right out of the gate. And so let's say you are in a situation where you don't know exactly what the price needs to be and you need to test that a little bit. Doing so privately allows you to test that market with a very small pool of buyers and without the scrutiny of the public MLS. But it doesn't matter what the reason is. I can name off a dozen other
Sure.
reasons. What matters is control and choice on the part of sellers. Now, that seems like a pretty cut and dry argument, but let me add one other thing, and I want to get your feedback on this. The challenge here is that seems, though that reason of choice and control feels very compelling, it's clouded by the fact that there, without CCP in place, there are many that believe that real estate professionals will steer their clients toward private listings because what is significantly more likely when you have a property listed privately? A double-sided transaction,
Of
because
course.
you're the only one that has access to that information. Thus, it is much more likely that you will have access to the buyers. Now, is that the reality? Probably in some situations. Nobody, I mean, we're human beings and there are going to be bad apples in the barrel, but is that the reality for everyone? That's certainly up for debate. So it's though the in a vacuum, the reasoning is pretty straightforward. It's not exactly a cut and dry issue either.
So I'm an agent and I get $1 million listing
Mhm,
and I say, I think if I throw an open house up and I've got a network of buyers, maybe think of it as maybe it's an investment opportunity for buyers. And I got 10 different buyers that I know are probably going to want to bid on this place. I'm going to delay putting it on the it'll be on the MLS, but it won't be on the IDX, it won't be on the public's access
mhm,
to this information. I'm going to delay that because I want to see if I can capture both sides of the deal, where and do a no agency situation, which no agency is essentially dual agency without the risk. Calling a spade, as Chris was
mhm.
one of his favorite sayings. I always wondered how no agency gets around dual agency, but it somehow sort of does. But it's kind of the same thing. We can that could be another episode all in
Mhm,
itself. Is
mhm.
how ethical is no agency? But regard that's for another time. So the idea is I could put it out in open house, start promoting it to my internal network of buyers, and try to capture both sides of that transaction.
Yep, 100%. And in fact, this is what advocates for the removal of CCP say should be happening at even a more intense level. It's not that what you just described, that scenario with that of investment opportunity and that private open house, that should happen even without the MLS being in place. You've got the property, you've got the contacts to the plus or minus 10 interested or potentially interested buyers. You should be able to hold this event just like this without bringing anyone else into it.
It's like a private auction.
It's exactly well, that's interesting. Yes, it is like a private auction in the same way that a real estate, like a traditionally listed property on the MLS, is like a public auction.
Right.
Everybody has a chance to see it. Everybody has a chance to put in an offer or a bid. And like I want to recognize why what I'm describing isn't perfect, because let's just uh, evaluate for a second. If we have this private open house, it's not on the MLS, nobody knows about it except for you and the people that you tell about it. There will likely be a buyer somewhere in your market who could have benefited from this information. They may have been qualified to purchase this property. They may be interested in looking for a property just like that one. In fact, They may be willing to pay over the asking price because their particular needs are such that they are willing to pay a premium on it. And by listing privately, you don't get that broad market exposure, and thus you limit that seller's ability to get to the highest price. And at the same time, you limit the buyer, that external buyer's opportunity to get to all of the property that is available in the market. And this is where we come to the real crux of the issue. The real crux, and I know this is what the segment is called, unpopular real estate opinions. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but it's true. Real estate professionals are being held to a very difficult
Yeah.
double-edged standard here,
Yeah.
because we are being asked to advocate for the best interests of the market when our contractual obligations are for the best interests of our clients.
Yes.
We cannot do both. We have to advocate for the best interests of our clients. That's our fiduciary responsibility.
Yes.
Real estate professionals are under no obligation to advocate for the best interests of the market. That is somebody else's job, and I'm not excusing the behavior. I'm not giving real estate professionals or anyone a pass to behave against their personal code of ethics, but when it comes to their realtor code of ethics, their first priority is the best interest of their clients. And if the best interest of their client is a private listing, to hell with the rest of the market. I mean, I know that sounds really harsh to say, but that's the reality.
My sister, the next door neighbor, used to, not their current neighbor, but the previous owner was an NFL football player, famous person, and same sort of situation. Didn't want a whole bunch of looky-loos coming by, and also my sister didn't want a whole bunch of looky-loos coming by to see her property next door. But there would have been some potential challenges with this. This was a slightly controversial figure in the NFL as well. So
Mhm,
this privacy thing is a real thing, and it was in their best interest of the homeowner at the time, the seller, to not push this out to every Tom, Dick, and Harry who
mhm.
has an IDX feed.
Totally.
However, as a fiduciary, the agent, you could make the argument, the agent didn't serve their client in the best possible interest if highest and best is ultimately what they were looking for from a financial perspective.
Well,
So you're absolutely right. We're talking about the market, we're talking about the client, and we're talking about fiduciary responsibility, and
mhm,
it is really muddy water
100%.
because the, you want choice, and there's no clear choice that is obviously the best path. There's
Mhm,
not an always do this and get this, do
mhm.
this action, get this result. It is a mess right now,
Yeah.
and I'm curious of what would be a better solution, or do you
Huh.
have thoughts on how this could all be resolved to
Yep.
both benefit the client and maybe the market?
Yeah. I do have thoughts here. And want to be the first to say I am speaking on behalf of myself and on behalf of no one else. I work with and for amazing people. This is my opinion, not their opinion. Um, Personally, I believe that three things need to happen. First, there needs to be a required disclosure that sellers sign when they list a property for sale, where the agent discloses the upsides and potential risks of any marketing strategy that they agree on together. So, whether you want to list full on market, whether you want to list delayed marketing exposure, like this new rule, whether you want to be completely off market, which is kind of a thorny thing. I'm not suggesting anyone to do that right now because it is technically in violation of CCP, depending on how you work it. In different markets are different, but no matter how you want to list, there needs to be a required disclosure
Yeah.
now, so that there is no confusion about the upsides and risks of different strategies
And downsides.
and downsides. Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's the first thing that needs to happen. The second thing needs to happen is this clear cooperation policy needs to go away. I think it needs to be removed. And the reason I think it needs to be removed is because we don't need we don't need a requirement to do what 95% of listings will already do. 95% of listings will activate onto the MLS under the traditional listing kind of timetables, because that's what's best for them.
Yeah.
Because what those sellers are looking for is the highest and best price. That is their number one priority. And I would genuinely be surprised if you can find me more than a handful of lunatic agents who have convinced themselves that the best way to get the highest and best price is to not expose it to more buyers. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. And smart real estate professionals know this. But it's important for us to remember, not every client's first priority is an open market highest and best.
Right.
They may have a property that doesn't require an open market in order to get highest and best, or they may have a property where highest and best isn't their first priority. Maybe privacy is their first priority. And we should not be requiring a policy to be in place where 95% of properties are going to follow that policy organically. The other 5%, where it doesn't make sense for them, should have the flexibility to do what it is that is in their best interest. So that's number two. So number one, super clear disclosures that are required anytime you sign a listing agreement. Number two, CCP gets abolished. It's that's the big one. But number three, this is small but incredibly important. I think that we need to see the decoupling of the National Association of Realtors from local MLSs and their influence there. Because right now we are do not allow local MLSs to make decisions holistically about their communities
Their market.
without those decisions being approved by the National Association of Realtors. And it flies counter to what we know is true about real estate, which is this is a local, it's not even local, it's a micro local business where the understanding of the best interests of consumers happens on a street level, not on a regional level, not on a state level, certainly not on a national level. The National Association of Realtors is an important body that continues to need to exist, but we need to give the control of the operation of the MLSs to local bodies and not have ownership control by the National Association of Realtors.
So instead of having one national MLS, which would be problematic. We of course have local MLSs to address local issues, but the tie between the local MLS and the National Association is strong and in your opinion unfortunate, because you would think your stance is that local associations can solve local problems and can solve for local needs.
100%. I mean, give me an example of the last time. Give me an example of the last time that a politician 1,000 miles from you had a more effective answer than the locally elected politician who is 2 blocks from you. I mean, it's important to call out there is a resource difference here, like a big, multinational. The National Association of Realtors is a multinational organization that has very large sets of resources, a ton of people, a ton of thought leadership we don't want to remove these folks from the equation. We just need to get the decisions into the hands of the people who are going to be the most effective in solving the problems. That seems like common sense to me.
I also think too, for the National Association of Realtors, I'll tell you a little story. I was out in Salt Lake City this past week with visiting some friends, and one of our friends is in business valuation, and he works with mergers and acquisitions. So he helps companies value themselves when he's a consultant. He owns his own consulting firm. He is very skilled. He worked at Deloitte and Touche before. Now he has his own firm. Anyway, reason I'm mentioning this, I asked him, and this is someone with 30 years of experience. Hey, Dave, can AI do your job right now? He
Mhm.
said, not today. He said, in 5 years, 5 to 10 years, it absolutely can. And I said, it can solve for, obviously, data it can solve for, but objective stuff it can solve for. But can it solve for your subjective experience? Your sort of knowing of your intuition, your wisdom. And he
Mhm.
said, absolutely, it will be able to do that for his particular business. And I said, "Woo, that's terrifying." And he said, "Yep." And he said, "Good thing he's nearing retirement age, so it's going to work out okay for him." He thinks, but this is so. I started thinking about this for realtors.
Mhm.
I started thinking, what I would like the National Association of Realtors to focus on is keeping us relevant
Mhm.
and or teaching us the skills that AI cannot solve for.
Mhm.
So, because if we think that that AI is not coming for any job, really,
Mhm.
we would be fools. Of course, it is. It's not
100%.
coming any sort of evil intention. It just that's what technology does. It evolves, it grows, it
Yeah.
solves problems, and so the days of us, you know, when it can start solving for
Mhm.
our relationships to clients, our relationships to community, then I think we're in real trouble. So
Yeah.
I would want the National Association of Realtors personally to start advocating for 1.5 million of us who hold these licenses, who want to continue earning income, who want to continue serving the public, who know at a micro level more than what AI can solve for today,
Mhm.
want them fighting for that. And I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
Know what that
Well, I will say, I have these same conversations with myself and with my team at Luxury Presence all the time, and my refrain is, if there is a data point generated by the work that's being done, it will eventually be done by AI. If there is some way to measure the effectiveness, or the potency of whatever it is you're executing, that will eventually be converted into a workflow that AI can do for you. But there is a very interesting side effect of this, and it actually brings together a in a beautiful kind of tie, the CCP conversation and an AI element to it. I believe wholeheartedly that the new CCP policy will force um, realtors to improve their networks
yeah,
significantly. And the reason behind this is, if we look at this change in the CCP policy not as the end of this conversation, because I don't think this is the end of the conversation at all, but as a another kind of light in the sky around this full conversation, where that constellation is pointing is toward um, the real value and benefit of realtors, not to be their access to information,
yeah,
not even to be their access to um, uh, uh, like exclusive networks like the MLS. That the exclusivity of that data is gone, and will be accelerated as AI continues to evolve. Where our value will be is in our networks, in our connections with other real estate professionals, in our connections with potential buyers and sellers, in our, as you mentioned, our connections to communities. I mean, the winners here are very clearly the agents and the brokers and the brokerages who create this feeling of, if you know me, you have an edge. If you have access to my knowledge and my experience and my network, you are better off. This really comes way back to something I said on your show years ago at this point. I cannot believe I'm saying that. It makes me feel really old. But years ago, I said, why is it that everybody has, if you ask them, who's your doctor? Who's your lawyer? Who's your accountant? The word your is important here. Like, I have my doctor. I have one doctor who's like the person. I don't go to a different doctor every time I get sick with something different. That's how we treat real estate agents. We don't have a default community based relationship with this person because there are too many people who are doing too little to build that network and relationship with me. The true winners here are the people who if I ask, who's your realtor, you say, oh yeah, my realtor, that's DJ. I've been working with him for X number of years. He knows my market inside and out. Even if I'm not buying and selling, I still talk to DJ because he's my expert on the local housing economy and the local housing market. He brings me opportunities, even though I
Yep.
am not really interested in those opportunities right now. He's the one who I talk to about that stuff. Those are the people who are going to, they're not just going to survive. Those are the people who are going to 10x their business in the next 10 years. I am 100% sure of it.
Yeah, this is a time to level up for sure because I was talking to a top producer recently. I did an episode with Ben Lawless. I'll give him a shout out. He a couple episodes back, and I don't know if this made it to the show or if it was off camera, but we were talking about um, getting lots of offers right now with not much listings out there, so there's a lot of buyer offers when he puts out listings. And he says when he gets a listing, if he doesn't recognize the agent on the other side, and if that agent isn't putting in significant effort to try to get this deal closed, in his opinion, whatever his version of significant effort is, calling him, texting him, checking in, how's it going? What do I need to do to close this deal? He says, I get really nervous. I get
Mhm.
really nervous. Is this agent going to limp over the finish line? Is this agent going to, blow up this deal before it closes? Again, because time is money. And of course, he's trying to do the right things for his clients. So AI can't really solve for that right now. Who's the best agent to handle? So
Mhm.
relationships are key. And I think you're right. We're talking about building a network of uh, of other professionals that you work with, and then also being so invaluable to your client that I have a primary physician, I have
Mhm.
somebody I go to, I have specialists too, but I have
Sure.
a primary. And I just found the greatest PT, a physical therapist I've ever found. Oh my god, I'm holding on to him forever. Right, so we all have these specialists and we want to hold on to them. But you're right, this you only want to work with the best. So if
True.
you're currently thinking I just do this for fun, this is just a nice little way to make some extra money, good for you. But realize that in the future, I don't think people are going to be as I don't think they're going to need a part-timer's service as much.
Yeah.
Just won't need it.
I agree completely. In fact, I would posit that the part timers will be replaced with self service.
Yeah.
Anyone who doesn't want or need that level, we will have AI powered self service real estate options for anybody who doesn't need to talk to another person. There are certainly going to be elements or situations where that exists, but you got to remember, like, that's going to be a vast minority of people because the vast minority or the vast majority of people, a purchase or a sale of a home is still in the most the count on one hand the most important financial moments of their life. Most people do not want to leave that to a chatbot.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And also remember too, 70% of the members of the National Association of Realtors, I believe this is accurate, did not close even one transaction last year. So we have a much smaller playing field than we think.
Mhm.
That's a good thing for people that take this career seriously, you can become that primary care physician for your client.
Yep.
But you have to earn it. And you're
True.
going to have to earn it not through data points, but through effort.
Yep.
You're going to have to bring those data points to your client
Mhm.
and your wisdom and your experience. And this is the time to do all of that.
Mhm.
Really just wisdom, experience, gain knowledge, become invaluable is kind of what I'm hearing from you.
100%. It's the way to do it.
Wow. What a conversation.
What an episode.
We could solve the world's problems. Let's just,
It's the start of a new week, new month. Let's do it.
let's tackle tariffs next episode. We can figure out
Well,
Canada and Mexico.
I got thoughts on tariffs, so yeah, bring me on.
Just don't increase the price of my vehicle or my whatever.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't promise that.
yeah, I know. It's I it's so complicated. Speaking of that I'm like, do we have to raise taxes? Are we going broke? What's going on? What's all going on? I don't understand the financial responsibility of our country. It's too complicated for me. But we'll stick to real estate
Yeah.
in this podcast.
Well, to
And
tie what you just said to real estate before we go, I will say, just like I was saying earlier, the national and international political conversations get a lot of headlines, but guess where most of the work gets done? It's in the local drain commissioner's office. It is in the city assessor's office. These are people whose door is literally open to you. If you are worried about the direction of your community, don't start at the top.
yeah.
Start at the bottom, because those are the people who are making decisions about the things that actually affect your day to day. And you have the power. Everybody has the power. If you live in America, you have power to access those local officials. In fact, they want you to. Most of the drain commissioners I know are sitting in their office, bored, waiting for someone to come in and talk to them. It should be you.
And if you want things to happen faster, those are the people you talk to and say, "Hey, what
100%.
what can we do to expedite this process? Is this a law? Do we need to sign a petition? Who do I have to influence to get this done?" That's what you can do, and that's where you can if bottom up approach.
There
Start
is
small.
there's a remarkable amount of runway for change that can happen, and I'll speak generally, but just for real estate specifically, there's a remarkable amount of runway for change that exists on how things currently are. Give you an example, like if you think that we need more inventory in your market, go to your planning committee, your zoning committee, and say, "Hey, I'm a real estate professional. Here's what I see. Here's where the market needs are not being met. This is just my opinion, but I have X number of years of experience and X number of transactions closed to back up this expertise. Use this to think about your next decision and call me when you have questions about this sort of thing." I mean, it sounds like a lead generation thing, but it's not. It's genuinely a decisions get made at the local level in rooms with the doors open. There are plenty of things that happen on national and international levels that will generate headlines, but if you want to generate results, go to the people who share your area code. Those are the people who are actually going to get stuff done for you.
So think locally and act locally as opposed
Love
to let's do it. All right. This is a great place to wrap up. Appreciate everyone's uh, being here on this podcast. Appreciate Chris. Chris has got a great voice. He really just has his pulse, a finger on the pulse of what's going on in real estate. We appreciate him. ChrisLinsell.com is where you can go. Chris, where should people find you on social media?
Come find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active these days, talking to folks. You can head over to luxurypresence.com to see what we're working on at Luxury Presence. We've got some amazing projects that are really transforming the way that real estate professionals serve their markets, their clients, and their communities. Yeah, let's see. I think I'm not going to be. I don't have anywhere I'm going to be on stage until this summer. So until then, you can just find my silky voice here with DJ.
Well, we appreciate your silky voice, and we will continue to keep our listeners updated on where you're speaking and when. Again, best way you can help our show is by telling a friend. Think of another agent that really needs to understand what clear cooperation is and how it could benefit or not benefit their client, and send them a link to this episode. We appreciate it. Let's keep the conversation going. This is important. This is how we can raise our voices, is by talking about it. So let's do that. So send them a link and also leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. We appreciate that too. Whatever app you're listening to us on, hit that review button and shoot us what you give us a ranking. And thank you so much on behalf of the audience, Chris, for your time and your energy and your insight. And on behalf of Chris and myself, thank you to the audience. We love you guys. Keep doing it. Keep doing. Let's raise our skill levels. Let's level up, and we'll see you all on the next episode.
Thanks, DJ. See you next time.
One sec. Okay. Let's see. Awesome. I thought that was really good.
Yeah. Interested to see the comments and